And welcome back to FreightWaves Now on this Wednesday morning. Time to catch up now with a familiar face on FreightWaves, one that hasn't been here in quite a while because he's been so busy. We've got Trey Griggs here with us today. Trey, thank you for coming back on FreightWaves. Good to have you. And today we're talking a little bit about kind of a transition that you've made recently. You were with Lean Staffing, you were in the sales role. You've now committed to Beta Consulting Group, which was your hustle, founder and CEO, and you're there full time now. So let's talk a little bit about this movement from sales into the full-time consulting world. I think you've got yourself muted. Maybe?
How about now? Can you hear
There
me
we
now?
go. You're good.
Sorry about that. I don't remember hitting the button, so I apologize. Normally, I just sit here and it goes perfect. So all apologies on that. Yeah, so it's been a great transition. I've been in sales for the past 10 years as a producer primarily. And then the last 2 years with Lean Sales, I got to do some sales coaching, sales enablement, sales operations, and marketing, brand ambassador work. And I've been thinking about doing my own thing for a long time. And so it was a good time to do it. I still get to be a part of the Lean family as a brand ambassador, which is exciting. And what they're doing over there, it's just tremendous. But now I get to also work with other clients and focus on the areas that I'm really passionate about, which primarily is around branding. I love helping companies with their brand. Love helping them personalize and emotionalize their brand. I mean, FreightWaves is a great example because when people think of FreightWaves, they think of Craig Fuller. He does a great job of putting himself out there, being the voice and the face of the company. And people have a connection with FreightWaves because they see Craig Fuller. I'm going to help companies do that either internally or as their brand ambassador. So it's exciting.
And Trey, can you talk about that a little bit more, is really being able to do those things that you're passionate about? I know whenever there is a role that someone takes on, there might be some aspects that I don't really like this part of it, but it's just a part of the bigger picture that I really do enjoy. Can you talk a little bit about really being able to really go all in on those areas that you're really passionate about?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, through all the experiences that you have, you figure out what's your sweet spot. Where do you get excited? Where do you feel like, I think of it three ways. If you can find out what you're good at, what your skill set is, and then figure out what your passion is among those skill sets, and then figure out what the market needs. If you can put those three together, it's a recipe for success. And so I've been thinking about those things for a long time and where I can be most beneficial to the marketplace and to my colleagues in the industry, where my skill set lies and where my passions are. And that's what I'm focused on aligning right now with Beta Consulting Group is the things I feel like that I'm good at, that people compliment me on, the things that I'm very excited about to get me out of bed, and the things that are valuable in the marketplace to companies. And from a branding perspective, a marketing perspective, I think a lot of companies miss out on the added benefits of really building their brand. I mean, how many companies out there would love for their next rock star employee to come to them because they've heard the founder speak and align with their values or love their product and what they're talking about? Or how many CEOs would like to have the next great customer who's going to help them to continue to develop their product, pay their bills on time, and come to you because they heard you speak as a founder and resonate with your values? There's a lot of those intangible benefits that you miss when you don't really focus on your brand.
I feel like in our industry, there are so many different companies that it can be really hard to stick out as a brand. Like once you've got something, you should kind of stay with it because it sticks. But that rebranding is something that has to happen. I'm thinking of an example of the Carrier Direct rebrand into Metaphora. Peter Rentschler, Ryan Schreiber,
Correct, yeah.
all of the amazing guys there who took this rebrand and really ran with it. And the entire point of the rebrand from Peter was that it wasn't about getting away from Carrier Direct, but it was about opening up their services to a broader range and some broader goals. Can you talk about the good things that you see in rebrands like this and what lessons companies can take maybe from Metaphora, watching them now rebrand into something huge?
Yeah, well, specifically with Metaphora, what they did was they looked at what they were doing in the marketplace and what their value was, and they basically created a brand that reflected that more than their previous name did. Carrier Direct didn't really reflect exactly what they were doing anymore in the marketplace. So rebranding was very positive for them because it gave a better picture, a better visual into what they're actually doing. It also created a little bit of buzz, like it was something new, right? Another company that recently did this very well is Exo Freight. My friends Curtis and Chris Schreiber, Jake McLeod, they took their previous company, Power Only Transit, and rebranded it to XO Freight. And it really made sense because they had moved out of just doing Power Only work. They wanted to create a little bit of buzz and create some marketing around that. And so a rebrand can be really powerful, or just taking your brand and just stepping it up a notch by creating more deliverables, creating more content, going to where your customers live, going to where your prospects are is really valuable with your brand. So if your customers live on Facebook or if they live on LinkedIn, then those are the places to pour in the resources to really build up that brand. And I say this a lot, brand, the best way to think about brand is this. If somebody sees your logo or hears your company name, what do they think about? That's your brand. And it's every company's responsibility to work on that, to improve that, to provide the messaging and the content that's going to create those subliminal messages in the minds of the marketplace about what their brand is all about.
And Trey, can you talk to all the underlying things that have to go into a rebrand from time to time? I mean, I can get a new paint job, but that doesn't mean that the vehicle's new. What are some of the things that you have to look at internally when you have a new rebrand, besides just, okay, I changed my logo, we're going to switch up the colors, we're going to do all these different things, but what are some of the roadmap ideas that you have to kind of go in internally before you kind of launch that rebrand?
It starts with messaging. What message do you want to convey to the marketplace? And once you realize what your message is, what your real mission is, your vision, your core values, what is it that you want the marketplace to understand, then you start to look at the deliverables that go along with that from a marketing perspective. You start looking at the logo, the subliminal messages that are within the logo. If you go to a graphic designer who really is worth their weight in gold, they're going to work with you through that process of identifying the things that can really stand out. You look at like FedEx, they've got the arrow subliminally in their logo. You see something like Amazon, they've got the smile and the arrow, and it goes from A to Z in their brand. There's these little subliminal things that are important when they think about the message that they want to create out there. So you start with the messaging, you start to look at the deliverables, the logo, the different single piece items of content that you want to send out, single page marketing deliverables. You start looking at your social media strategy, and then most importantly, you communicate that internally so that everybody inside your organization is on the same page. With the rebrand, you got to look at email signatures. You got to look at all the different aspects of how people are going to see and view your company. And so once you go through all of that, then you push out the rebrand, but it really starts with the messaging and the content.
So when you decide that it's time for a rebrand, right, sometimes that decision can come from your marketing folks, the ones that are outwards facing, that are talking to clients every single day, your sales folks as well. And it can be kind of hard to convey that to the higher ups and to convince that the rebrand might need to happen, right? Do you have any advice for folks who are on those touch points with outside clients who are maybe getting the feeling that, it's time to switch things up a little bit, it's time to change things up, and how they can take that feedback to their higher ups and maybe start the process of getting a rebrand on board?
Yeah, well, this is where I think that everybody truly is in sales in the organization. I mean, if you're wanting to rebrand or believe that's a good idea for organization, then you got to create a story, for the higher ups, for your executive team to say, why do we need to do this? Or why is this going to be valuable? What's going to be the benefit? And the hard thing about marketing that's different than sales or other aspects is that a lot of times that ROI takes a while to see. And so it's a commitment that needs to be made by everybody in the organization. It's going to be a long path. A lot of times rebrands will take 3 to 6 months to put everything together and to get it out there. And then you'll see some traction down the road. So it's about painting that picture and creating a story for the executive team on why this is going to be really valuable. What are the reasons why maybe we don't want to stick with what we have? What are the benefits of where we're headed? And really paint that picture and then get everybody on board. And so I think that's really critical to, as a marketing team, to understand those aspects of what are the questions that are going to be asked by an executive team? What are they going to want to focus on, and being prepared for that as you make your pitch to have a rebrand.
And Trey, I think that's another area that I'm really interested in, is that marketing aspect, because I also think about rebrands, and I think of two different aspects. I'm sure there are many, but the first one I think of is whatever happened to that one company, and they didn't go anywhere, they just rebranded. And so I'm sure that's a huge marketing aspect that I would definitely want your feedback on. And the other one is folks that just don't really ever jump on board. So it's like they keep referring to the company as the old name when you have an entire new identity. Can you expand on some of those aspects for marketing?
Yeah, so I think Metaphora did a great job, because if you look at them on LinkedIn, they basically are marketing themselves now as Metaphora, formerly Carrier Direct, and they're going to do that for a while. And that's going to happen probably, I bet they're going to do that for 6 to 12 months, and just get people familiar with a new company while still referencing the old company. That's one way that you can do that. Some companies choose not to do that, and that's okay as well. Sometimes you might not have either a presence with the old brand that doesn't really, it's not significant, so it doesn't matter. Or maybe the brand had some negative connotations. You don't want people to remember the old brand. That happens too. So I think it just depends on your situation and what you're wanting to convey in the marketplace. There's several ways to do that. As far as getting everybody on board within your organization, this is where I think gamifying this can really be fun. Creating some competitions or some incentives for helping people to get on board with it, making it an enjoyable process. It's always good to get people's feedback. Sometimes if you ask everybody their feedback, you get too many cooks in the kitchen. So I think instead it might be better just to communicate what we're doing, especially to mid and lower level employees in your company, but gamify it a little bit, make it fun. Have some days where you're celebrating the new brand, or you're giving them all something very useful with the new brand on it, so they can have a good feeling with that. I say this all the time about swag, but it's true internally as well. When you give swag out at a trade show, it needs to represent your brand. It needs to be high quality, and it needs to be something functional that the people are going to use, or else they'll just throw it off to the side and not actually see it. Same thing is true in this case. You could create some internal swag. Maybe it's a nice new pullover that everybody gets to have with a new logo on it, or something that is going to create some synergy within your organization and get people to buy in, and gamify it a little bit. Give incentives or gift cards for certain activities that are promoting the brand or things like that. I think that's how you get everybody on board, is more with a carrot, much more than a stick.
Awesome, Trey. Well, thank you for joining us today. It's great to catch up with you as always. What's next for Beta Consulting Group before we let you go?
Well, we've got a lot of exciting things happening. The most important, though, is that we're actually having a fundraiser event on April 30th. We're having the Word on the Street Tough Mudder Charity Challenge, where we're raising money for an organization called Battle Buddy 3-Gun that takes wounded veterans, specifically paralyzed veterans, on shooting adventures and give them a sense of community. We're going to have a Tough Mudder here in St. Louis. I've got a team that's coming in. We're going to do 9 miles and 30 obstacles. But most importantly, we want people to be a part of that and potentially donate. All the money goes directly to Battle Buddy 3-Gun, their 501c3 organization. And people can learn more by going to my website, betaconsultinggroup.com/events. They can see everything about the weekend. They can join us for the Tough Mudder, or just come in for a fun weekend with us. But most importantly, they can click on the GoFundMe link and donate directly to the cause. We're trying to raise $100,000. It's a big goal, so we need everybody to pitch in, and would love for people to check it out, ask questions if they like, but definitely donate to a really worthy cause.
Awesome, Trey. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. I don't think I'll be able to join in that Tough Mudder. I just don't have that kind of cardio, but for sure be able to donate. We'll be sure to check in with you a little bit later on.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you.
All right, we're going to take another quick break. We'll be back with a shipper update from Anthony Smith. You might have a little bit more energy for the shipper update. Maybe not enough for a Tough Mudder, though. We'll be right back.